The Pokémon franchise has become notorious in the last few years for how mismanaged it's been, with Game Freak adopting a quantity over quality approach to the franchise and the last 4 generations all having something holding them back from being beloved. Generation 10 needs to change something. As of me filming this video, Pokémon Legends ZA has only just been announced, with absolutely nothing known about it, meaning Gen 10 is still fairly far away. So I'd like to take this opportunity to do some hopeful speculation about the future of the franchise that we all love, and hey, maybe if I predict something, you guys can come back to this video and tell me how this video aged like fine wine or something. I fully believe that Legends ZA will be the final game in the Switch era, and I wouldn't be surprised if Gen 10 ends up being a launch title for the new console. Well, if you're a launch title, then you need to be a good game, right? So Game Freak would need to put some extra effort in to make sure this game is launch title worthy. I mean, they don't need to, considering this is Pokemon and all. It would sell regardless of how bad the game ends up being, but I have faith that Game Freak hasn't abandoned their ways of making good games. So what does a Pokemon game need to be in order to be good? Well, first of all, make it not suck. I'm only kidding. Or am I? Jokes aside, I want the franchise to slow down and take its time again. And what better way to do that than with another soft reboot? In case you didn't know, Generation 5 was meant to be a soft reboot of the whole franchise. That's why we got our first region outside of Japan, several Pokemon who were reimagined versions of older ideas. And black people. I think Generation 10 is the perfect place to take another shot at that. Maybe reimagining the entire franchise this time as opposed to just Gen 1. The region could be based off of somewhere outside of Europe and Japan, and maybe go to South America or Africa or Australia, or hell, I'm down for another American state. I mean, we only got like 3 of those, one of which is a spin-off region, and the other 2 feel so distinct from each other. If we're staying in Europe though, at least do a non-Western European country. Like, can you imagine a Balkan Pokemon region? Better be careful in Bosnia, you might step on an electrode. I also want Game Freak to try something new with the franchise and incorporate new features in the games to reinvigorate them for the next generation of consoles. Starting with... I'll be honest, this is a completely biased request. I absolutely despise turn-based combat in any game, and I think it's time Pokemon moves on from it. If Final Fantasy can, then what's holding Pokemon back? Imagine having a Pokemon battle, but instead of just picking a super effective move, you instead have proper anime-like battles. That would be so cool. This would also help with something else I want Pokemon to do. Merging the side games into the mainline series. Scarlet and Violet introduced the Synchro Machine, which reminds me of the same devices they use in Pokémon Tournament. Since we're most likely never getting a Pokémon game again, I think the next best thing is to incorporate Pokémon style battling into the main games, so that we can live out every fan's dream of having battles like in the anime. However, I wouldn't just outright ditch turn-based combat right away. Instead, I'd let players pick between the 2 battling forms, just like what Final Fantasy VII did, just so I can get people used to the new battle styles and sort of take it away slowly so people don't complain. This new real-time combat system could actually create like a second style of tournaments as well. I would also like to incorporate older franchises like Pokemon Ranger in there as well. I'm not saying they should just like let you become a ranger or something, but featuring recognizable places or characters from the Ranger games is a good first step. Maybe even make it into a side mission or something. Or maybe, depending on the country you're turning into a region, a small portion of it can be turned into a Pokemon Ranger area instead, like how the tail end of Hokkaido is not actually part of Sinnoh, but a separate region called Almia instead. Maybe if you make like an Irish region, Northern Ireland can be the Ranger area, I don't know. Side note, I was gonna suggest Southern France instead, since Kalos oddly doesn't include that part, but like, that really should have been a new Battle Frontier area. Maybe they could have shared it with Paldea or something, so all the people who thought the DLC would be in Kalos wouldn't have been blueballed like that. I actually have some ideas about that, so if anybody's curious, let me know and I'll make a video about it. Of course, not every side game can be merged into the main series, because like, what are you gonna do with Poke Park or Mystery Dungeon? Do I have anything else for the mainline games besides just like take your time and try to make a good game? Oh yeah, voice acting. Game Freak, please, I'm begging you. Let the people speak. You literally had cutscenes in Scarlet and Violet that looked like they were made to have voice acting. Even the fucking lip flaps matched the dialogue. Like, please, just let them speak. If the next game doesn't have fucking voice acting, I'm gonna riot. Anyway, those are the main games, but what about the side games? And no, I don't mean those side games. I'm talking about 2 new series of games that Game Freak needs to utilize well. Legends and Let's Go. As proven by Legends DA's existence, these games are gonna most likely continue. They made a lot of money after all. I also think Legends games don't need to be as full of content as a mainline game. Like, Legends DA apparently takes place entirely in Lumio City, and that's fine by me. They'll obviously make the city much bigger, but limiting the story within the borders of one place would allow for the game to be on a smaller scale, and also allow the series to not take up too much staff power. This means they can focus on the mainline games while putting Legends game out as basically appetizers between generations. See, I wrote the script before ZA was announced, so it's really just me going, please make more in another region, please. I'll save myself the editing pain and just move on to my suggestion for the Let's Go games. But I do have one request. Game Freak, Legends Deoxys. Please. Anyway, moving on to... See, here's the thing. There's one thing Game Freak likes more than Charizard. Remakes. Remakes are basically nostalgia bait cash grabs that Game Freak has been shitting out for the last 2 decades. And while Fire Red and Leaf Green and Heart Gold and Soul Silver were goated, and Oras was busy taking out the Battle Frontier, BDSP was the first one that truly sucked. Now, obviously they won't admit that, but I think BDSP kind of signaled the end for remakes. Black and White remakes might just be the last one. Hell, they might even combine Black 2 and White 2 with the first games for the remakes. But I fully believe that the Sun and Moon games will not get remade. XY is a 50-50 chance too. I mean, they're in 3D, but they're still chibi, so they might attempt to remake them with like modern graphics and maybe try to fix the game's horribly low difficulty level. Either way, Sun and Moon is not getting remade. Alola will not be getting remade at any time soon. Unless we make like a huge jump in technology, we're not getting Alola remakes. So what, are we just gonna give up our precious nostalgia bait Poké Dollars? Of course not. That's where Let's Go comes in. Instead of remaking the same games again, or remaking the remakes, why not take a new approach to the older regions and nostalgia bait that way? Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are supposedly remakes of Pokemon Yellow, the special edition Gen 1 game released back in the 90s that follows the story of the anime instead, hence the Pikachu starter. And the reason why I say supposedly is because, aside from featuring anime original characters and having Pikachu as your starter, the rest of the game is quite different. And with Let's Go, since Red never defeated Team Rocket or captured Mewtwo, and with characters like Green existing, this is very clearly a new timeline. A new timeline like this would allow us to remake the older generations again for at least another 2 decades. The stories can even loosely adapt Ash's journey through these regions too, so we can double nostalgia bait. The only thing we would need to do though is take out the Pokemon Go style capturing thing. Like just make it normal, Game Freak. Like, nobody wants that. Pokemon Go sucks. But I mean, yeah, we can do Let's Go Pichu and Let's Go Togepi, or Let's Go Plusle and Let's Go Minun. Like, please, Game Freak, you're sitting on a frickin' treasure chest right now. With a new console on the horizon and the big double-digit generation coming soon, it's only logical that they try something new, right? Right, Game Freak? Right?